Okay, I'm really sorry I didn't see the chat and I just continued. So I don't know where did I actually stop and what was the last slide actually you were concentrating on. If anybody can remember the last thing that we discussed.
I think it was three types of discourses, as
Okay,
far as I remember. You went a little further, but it would be good if you could start from there. Okay,
right.
stopped at slide 13.
Yeah, I can't actually share. There's no option like host disabled attend screen sharing.
Habiba, please start screen sharing, please.
Okay. Yes, it was slide number 13, and we were actually talking about. Uh, I just told you that when we talk about CDA, CDA is not a single theory, but CDA is actually composite of different theories or different models. So anybody who is interested in the critical work of discourse analysis, he or she will be able to find out a number of approaches there. So one is, for example, French discourse analysis, as I said, that you can actually look at any kind of discourse from a Foucauldian perspective or then the Pétir's perspective. So Foucault and then Pétir, they are two different researchers, different philosophers. And Foucault is a post-structural philosopher, and Pétir was actually inspired or influenced by the Marxist ideology, especially Althusser's work. So their concept of discourse will be different. Then we have a socio-cognitive approach, which is actually introduced by the Venn Dyack, and he was interested in looking at the racism in discourse, and he looked at it from the socio-cognitive perspective. That means how our brain interacts with the context when making meaning of the context through language. And then we have a discourse historical method that was actually introduced by Ruth Woodcock. And anybody who is interested in the discourse, historical discourses, then you will need to refer to the Woodcock. And likewise, the fourth, possible model, which was given by Norman Fairclough, and he was actually influenced by the Marxist ideology, and he looked at the capitalist analysis of the social orders, so how a specific social order is influenced by the capitalism, and therefore we need to look at or demystify the capitalist relations, underlying any kind of social order. So these are four models, and these were actually some of the common principles that we refer to. All the CDA philosophers and the researchers, they agree that these are some of the common principles that a discourse analyst can look at. For example, CDA addresses social problems. So if you want to understand, if you want to adopt a critical discourse analysis in your approach, then you first of all need to be clear that you want to actually address a social problem. So social problem can be like related with the gender, related with the ethnic groups, related with the maybe races, or any kind of social problem that exists in your surroundings that you want to address it. Then you can really go for the critical discourse analysis. And for CDA analyst, power relations are discursive. Means power relation exist in the discourse. They exist in the kind of text and the spoken conversations. And discourse constitutes society and culture, and therefore we need to look at society and culture from the discourse perspective, from ideological perspective. And then we see that discourse does ideological work. So discourse is not something like uh, uh, Henry Vidalson and then the Geoffrey Lee, they define only in relation to the context, but discourse does the ideological work in the critical perspective. Discourse is historical. You have to look at a specific discourse from historical perspective. And then we have the link between the society and the text. It is actually mediated through power. So what is the relation between the text that we read and the society we interact with? So text and society, they have to be, the relation between them have to be mediated through the power. It's a power that actually, brings meanings in the text, and then the text and society, they work dialectically. They influence each other. Text influences society, and society influences the text. So therefore, for example, any kind of literature, then when you look, for example, as a literary student, you always see that when we want to understand the text, we have to look at it from a specific social epoch, a specific social period, time period when the text was produced, because the society, the historical conditions, they actually shape the text. And then we see that discourse analysis is interpretive, it is explanatory. So you can actually interpret it, you can actually explain, the phenomena that you are investigating. And then discourse is a form of social action. So when you are doing a discourse analysis, you are actually engaging in a social action. You are actually doing a kind of job that is for the sake of the improvement of a certain problem. So discourse analysis is not only simply, trying to highlight certain problem and then going away, but it's kind of a critical engagement. And now the third tradition, which is a post-structural tradition in discourse knowledge. This is very interesting. One thing I would say here, that as a post-structural, thinker, one needs to be clear that the post-structural thinkers actually do not look at the reality the way the Marxists do, the way the CDA analysts do. For example, post-structural philosophers, they question the very concept of truth. They do not believe in the truth at all. They say that there is no such thing as truth at all. So for them, what is the ultimate goal? If there's no truth at all, then what is the ultimate goal of doing discourse analysis? Then they say that discourse analysts actually have to engage in the constant problematization of the social problems. So we don't have to take positions, because in the CDA, when you are influenced by the Marxist ideology, you always take a side. You always take a position. In the post-structural discourse, you don't take a position. You become neutral. You are just an analyst, and you try to analyze different discourses. You try to problematize them. You try to question them. You try to demystify the practices. But you do not actually claim that, okay, at the end of the day, at the end of the analysis, you are going to claim that, okay, now these are the problems, and then this is the truth. You can't actually claim the truth at the end. And therefore you will see that there are different researchers, there are philosophers who have actually brought ideas about discourse. Althusser is there. Althusser's work, ideological state apparatus, is very interesting. You can read. Bakhtin is very important philosopher in the post-structural thought. Heteroglossia is a concept. Heteroglossia is actually a concept that refers to that any text does not contain a single voice, but text is composite of multiple voices. So every text that we read is composite of multiple voices that we need to identify. And then we have a Derrida. Derrida is a very important philosopher because he is known to be the founding father of the post-structuralism. He introduced the concept of deconstruction as a strategy to read the text. How to deconstruct a text is again very important, and you will find in detail, in Derrida's work, for example, of grammatology, how he provides the techniques to read a text, whether literary text or a non-literary text. All kind of text can be deconstructed. By deconstruction, we mean that Derrida tried to question the binary relations, binary oppositions that are very common in the world. For example, we all human beings look at the world from the binary perspective. Means we see the, let's say, we see the world like in day and night perspective. We always see things in two sides. So these two relations are two sides of the of any kind of phenomena that need to be questioned, because when we have a binary relation like male and female, let's say gender, male and female. Now this is problematic. Why? Because when we have the binary opposition, what happens as a result? One category is always given preference over the other. For example, in Pakistan, let's say when we talk about male and female, then of course male has a privilege over the female in many cases, because man thinks himself to be the primary being as compared to female. So man exercises his own power. So for Derrida, this kind of thinking was a problem, and therefore he started questioning it. Then we have a Foucault, and as I told you, that Foucault has provided a very important concept of discourse, and then he has given the conceptual toolbox that we will see in the next slide. And if you are interested in looking at the text, whether literary text or non-literary, from a feministic perspective, then of course you will see Judith Butler and Judith Baxter and then Whedon. These are three important researchers that are very famous for looking at any kind of post-historical feminist thought. So they can really help you to understand. And then we see here Foucauldian toolkit for discourse knowledge. As I said that Michel Foucault, is a very broader, philosopher, and his writings are very diverse in terms of, proposing ideas. So, if you're interested in applying Michel Foucault to your research, then definitely you can't apply entire Foucault to your work. What you can do is you can always find out, specific conceptual categories that you can actually apply to your data. For example, power and knowledge is a one conceptual category. Governmentality. Now, governmentality is again is a single concept, and you will see a number of books have been written from the governmentality perspective. Like we have a neoliberal governmentality, okay, and then you will see a number of research articles which are produced in this concept, and then we have docile bodies, technology of the power in the self, and biopolitics, and then subjectification and other kind of categories are there. So definitely you will read Foucault and then see which of his categories are important. I will share the slides with Dr. Taj, and then she will share with you. You can look at it maybe in the future. Now, how are CDA and PDA, means critical discourse analysis and the post-structural discourse analysis, how they are different from each other? Especially as I said that they conceptualize discourse and power differently. For example, if we look at the concept of power from CDA and the post-structural discourse perspective, power in CDA, to Fairclough and Woodcock and Van Dyke, power is something which flows from top to bottom. Like we have the state, we have the government, and it has the power, it has a centralized power, and that it uses to control the masses, control the people. This is what they believe. But for Foucault, for other post-structural philosophers, power is not something which is only in the hands of the few. It's not something which is possessed by the state or possessed by any kind of higher authority, but power is diffused. Power is everywhere. So we, for example, in our own capacities, exercise power in different form. For example, maybe at one place I am powerless, I am being controlled, but at another place I am exercising the power. For example, maybe within the family, let's say I can exercise my power, but at a workplace I am powerless. So power fluctuates, power works in different dimensions, and power is everywhere. It's not only possessed by few, but it is actually possessed by everybody in different position. And these are some of the I just refer to few writers who have actually in literature side who have integrated discourse analysis perspective in their writing. For example, a very famous book of Orientalism that was written by Edward Syed. Okay, how the West has actually portrayed the East, and you will see that Edward Said's writings were also influenced by the Foucault's writings, and he actually looked at the Oriental discourse and how otherness and how marginalization is actually taking place from the Western perspective while representing the East. And then we will see then especially the racial stereotyping and denigrate others in the colonial ideology. There are very big names like Homi Bhabha. Homi Bhabha is, for example, influenced by Habermas. Habermas is again a very important thinker in the critical theory. Because critical theory is something that influenced the critical discourse analysis. So Homi Bhabha was also influenced by Foucault and then the Lyotard. And then we see Gayatri Spivak. Her writings are influenced by Derrida, and she has also, reconsidered the work of Derrida of grammatology. She rewrote it, and then we see that her work, like subaltern theory in literature, it is also influenced by Derrida's work. So simply, there is a possibility for anybody who is interested in the text analysis to use, different critical discourse analytical approaches in their work. They can be Marxist approaches, they can be the post-structural philosophers. Thank you so much. If we have time and if you really want to ask a question, you are welcome. If you have glasses, then you can do as you please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Waqar. Mr. Waqar, you are still in the process of becoming a doctor,
Yeah.
and we wish you good luck. We can see very well that you've, thoroughly researched on the topic. Some people have left, but some students are here. I would like to welcome you to ask questions. If they don't have questions, I may have just a comment or a question. Any questions from students, please? Any questions? I think they're just overwhelmed by the amount of information that. Okay, so we're just learning. I discussed the basics of discourse analysis with them, and I think this will be a good exposure in terms of exploring the possibilities further. I just wanted to ask one question about your research, your doctorate research, and how does it engage with discourse analysis as a methodology? Would you like to say something briefly
Yeah,
about it?
yeah, exactly. Basically, in my PhD, I am looking at three kinds of data. One is the Pakistani national curriculum for English language teaching, and secondly, I am trying to look at the textbooks, English language textbooks, which are taught in Sindh province of Pakistan in the schools and colleges from grade 1 to 12. And then I look at how teachers engage themselves with with the materials, teaching materials, and then the learners. So in these three kinds of data, of course, I would be looking at a kind of discourses and ideologies, and how power is actually working in constructing the ideologies in the textbooks and the national curriculum. And especially in my current article that I am working on, I am looking at teachers, for example, whether teachers work as a docile bodies, as I said, as I discussed in the Foucault's concept, docile bodies means whether they are really submissive, they are just accepting everything what is the power is giving them, or they are also exercising their agency. So I'm using two of the concepts of Foucault, like docile bodies and agency, in one of my articles. And in one of my other article, which is based on textbooks, I'm referring to Norman Fakelof's work, CDA. This is very again a broader concept, and there are a number of possibilities that we can use from Norman Fakelof's to analyze how language in the textbooks work, and whether the language really promotes certain kind of inequalities and injustice in society. So I'm using two of the concepts of Foucault, like docile bodies and agency, in my article. And in my article, I am looking at yeah.
Some people have left because they have other classes. So I'll thank you again for your time and bearing with us for reconnecting. And we wish you good luck for your PhD, and we'll be in
Thank
touch, inshallah.
thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Thank you. Bye.